There's a feeling many of us share, but rarely name. A sense that everything we do is being watched, recorded, measured, and predicted. We live freely, but not quite freely. We speak our minds, but with the faint awareness that someone or something is always listening. Once upon a time, freedom was about breaking chains. Now, the chains are invisible. This strange, quiet pressure shaping our every move is the world Michel Foucault, the 20th century philosopher, tried to describe. He didn't write about the future, but about the structures that have already begun to govern us. And he gave us a language for what it means to live in an age of control. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Popular Philosophy. And in this episode, we're continuing the theme of postmodernity when we're taking a close look at Michel Foucault and his contribution to the issue of modernity. The birth of modern power. For Michel Foucault, power is not what kings had once had. Power as domination from above. Modern power is subtle. It doesn't need to be seen because it's already within us. In Michel Foucault's Discipline and Punish, he traces how Western society shifted from the spectacle of punishment, public torture and executions, to a new regime of discipline. In the old world, the body of the criminal was torn apart in front of a crowd. In the modern world, the body is trained, it's corrected, and it's normalized. In Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon, the image of a circular prison with a central watchtower, this inspired Michel Foucault. It was the perfect image of modern power. We never know when we're being watched, so we begin to watch ourselves. You internalize the gaze of the watchtower. Power no longer needs chains. It has moved into our own conscience. That is what Michel Foucault calls disciplinary power, the invisible shaping of behavior through schools, hospitals, prisons, and even workplaces. And here's the key. These institutions don't control us. They create us. They produce the normal human being. So, part 2, knowledge and the power, the invisible and latent. We often think knowledge can liberate us. You probably heard, knowledge is power. But for Foucault, he asks, what if knowledge is one of power's most refined tools? In The Birth of the Clinic and the History of Madness, he shows how medicine, psychology, and science began to define what counts as healthy, what counts as normal, and what counts as rational. To be sane, or to be productive, isn't a natural fact. It's the result of systems deciding what life should look like. The doctor, the teacher, the scientist, they all become figures of authority, not by brute force, but by truth. Power, Foucault says, and knowledge are not separate. They are intertwined. To name something is to rule over it. To diagnose is to govern. In every claim to truth hides a politics of who gets to speak and who must be silent. This is the world we inherit from modernity. One where truth isn't discovered, it is manufactured. So part 3, biopower in the age of control. If disciplinary power trained our bodies, a new form of power would come to manage our lives. That is known as biopower. Biopower doesn't punish, it regulates. It counts births and deaths. It tracks illnesses. It manages populations. It governs through statistics, policies, and health campaigns. The goal is not to destroy life, but to optimize it. Under biopower, life itself becomes a political project. We are told what to eat, how to exercise, when to reproduce, and how we will die. Freedom becomes a matter of compliance. And here lies Michel Foucault's postmodern insight. Power no longer stands outside of us, it runs through us. It is in our institutions, our habits, our desires. We participate in our own surveillance. We construct ourselves according to the norms that control us. So part 4, the postmodern condition. Foucault's work marks a turning point in thought. The passage from modernity's faith in reason and progress to postmodernity's suspicion of both. Where Enlightenment thinkers sought to free humanity through reason, Foucault shows how reason itself has become a tool of domination. There's no pure truth outside power, only regimes of truth, produced and sustained by systems of control. Yet, he is not despairing. In his late works on ethics, on sexuality, and on the care of the self, Foucault turns to the possibility of resistance. If power creates us, then freedom begins in self-creation, in the shaping of one's life as a work of art. Perhaps this is our moment's quiet tragedy, that we mistake control for order, data for truth, connection for freedom. Foucault teaches us not simply to rebel, but to see, to perceive the invisible structures that define our lives. He calls us to awareness, to the fact that every word we use, every identity we claim, every norm that we obey is part of a history that we ourselves did not choose. But awareness is the beginning of freedom. To know how power works is to loosen its grip. And in that awareness, we begin again to imagine a world where life finally belongs to itself. This is popular philosophy. And maybe the most radical act in an age of control is to ask, who are we before the world tells us who we are? Thank you all so much for joining us. If you found this episode interesting or learned anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. We look forward to bringing you more content in the near future.